Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is ScryMind, and this is going to be a 1v1 game on Secret Valley. I was Orc, and my opponent was Random, and he gets Elf. So I'm going to be the red player here. Spawned at the bottom left. He's going to be spawned at the top right, as you can see. And it appears he is going to be doing sort of the standard Ancient War creeping pattern. Frequently going for a Demon Hunter. And at this stage of the game, I don't actually know what race he is. But I'm going to be doing a sort of standard opening with a Blade Master and Grunts. Now my base build is it may look a little bit bizarre, but I sort of am planning my base more geared towards late game. I guess you could say the barracks early to mid game will be in a pretty vulnerable location. Not exactly walling off anything. Again, the barracks is going to be vulnerable as it's out of range of the burrow. So it could be something that they could attack, but I do intend to get some burrows sort of in front of my Great Hall here. So depending on what race, regardless, I will have sort of some makeshift defense in case they come into attack. I'm going to have the burrows sort of lined up behind, hopefully some either Tier 2 buildings or a Voodoo Lounge. I'm not exactly sure where I want to position the Voodoo Lounge, if I want to put it here or over here. But that's really the thought process. So I put another burrow here, and I plan on placing buildings at these two locations to sort of offer defense or walling structures in front of the burrows. So I see that he's Elf. So in terms of dealing with Huntresses, this base build should be pretty good. In terms of dealing with the sort of Tier 2 harass that Elf often does with this build order, going for a Beastmaster second and then running in with archers, it is probably a little bit more vulnerable if I do build the burrows out towards the front. But what can you do? So at any rate, he's going to go ahead and get this creep camp done pretty efficiently, it seems. He's already got the Gloves of Haste. So he's going to be ahead of me in terms of experience, but he is going to be behind me in terms of unit count here. I think, actually, I'm going a little bit slow here, but I'm going to start my second Grunt before he roots this Ancient War. But at any rate, I'm going ahead and starting my tech. It looks like he's going to be a little ways off. It looks like he forgot his second Moonwell, so that was a bit of a mistake on his end, it seems. But one of the major points of this map is the fact that it's got these fountains of health, and the creep camp such that you can get a pretty good item for not a lot of effort. Notice I've only got the one hero, and you can actually get this without a grunt, but I do have a grunt here to make it quicker. If you go for this Null Warden on this particular camp, it's going to drop, a pretty good item, and it's going to go down pretty quick. And considering there's a healing fountain here, it's not really all that risky to do it. I can run away as soon as, or wind walk, and heal up here if I want to. But at any rate, I'm going to get this camp, and I'm actually going to do the rest of the camp for the experience. I do want to try to get level 2, and while I'm here, it doesn't really take very long to kill these old brutes. So in terms of like not wasting a lot of time, I'm going to do that. So he's running around and looking for me. He's got some wisps positioned around, but he's only got one archer here. He's going to make another one. And his Demon Hunter, he is loaded up with Staff of Teleportation, Boots of Speed, and he also got a Gloves of Haste like me, so he's in a pretty good position. In terms of experience, I'm going to be slightly ahead, but we're the same level, so it's not really that big of a deal. So I see that he's just got his Demon Hunter here, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to get a little bit of a surround, get some damage. I've got 3 grunts and my hero. I don't quite close off this round. A little bit of an error there on my end, so that was could have been a really good catch if I would have pulled that surround. He did have a staff, but the damage that he took was quite a lot, so he probably didn't have enough time to actually staff out there. But that's going to be the first of several sort of micro mistakes. This was the first game I ended up playing today, but at any rate, he's going to go heal at the fountain. And in the meantime, I've got the units to sort of create more camps, and again, that's going to be further enabled by both the healing fountain and the fact that I picked up some healing salves. So the next target camp I'm going to go for is this healing or yeah, this healing fountain. I probably should have went for this expansion spot first, and then after I took the damage, I can come down to the healing fountain and heal up. But I did not do that. I went for this healing fountain first, and I'm gonna go for that. So he pops in his demon hunter to be annoying. Pretty good timing. He ends up canceling my bestiary, and so right now he's just looking to sort of distract. He's got about 5 archers. I don't know. He's going to go for a 6th. And right now, or very shortly, I need to start thinking about leaving some peons in these burrows and having my grunts sort of ready to defend, because this is a very common strategy. They're going to go right for the burrows. They're going to pick up a Beastmaster to add in damage output. And they're going to have a lot of damage to put. And again, this burrow is going to be the vulnerable one, most likely, and then this one. But the point is, it's very easy with this many archers and the demon hunter, of course, with the claws of attack. Not claws, but gloves of haste. And the Beastmaster, the DPS is enough that he's going to be able to threaten these burrows. Now, once again, I'm going to have the second bestiary, which I was sort of thinking maybe go Wind Riders, maybe go Bat Riders, or something like that. But he comes in here and he's going to cancel his bestiary, and my Shadow Hunter comes out. So I'm really sort of out of position here. I sent my Blade Master into his main to sort of harass. My grunts are really out of position. My Shadow Hunter, I'm not getting the best use. The repairing, I could be doing better to save these burrows. But at least the positioning now that my grunts are coming in is going to be pretty decent. I am going to lose 2 burrows here, and I did. I don't know if I even canceled that bestiary, so that was great. I hope I don't lose this burrow. I don't think that I do, but I will see. I've got plenty of peons to repair this. I actually built a 1 extra wood peon than usual here for teching and such. But so he's going to get several burrow kills. He is going to lose several archers. He's going to force me to buy potions. And during this time, I'm actually not harvesting any gold or a lot of lumber, but I do kill some wisps in his main base as well. So this was sort of, he maybe got a little bit of a, at that point he maybe was ahead, but right now he's actually going to end up, due to some really bad micro, he doesn't notice that I'm still here. So I do manage to kill his demon hunter, which was a pretty big deal here, getting that that demon hunter kill. I don't know quite what level he was. I think he was, I know he was at least level 2, but and he's going to tavern him back. Yeah, he was just level 2, wasn't level 3. So he taverns him back, and I'm coming towards the center and healing with some heal salves and everything. He's going to go ahead and cancel that. Pretty solid move. And he really sort of, you know, threw my production for a loop there. He knocked out several burrs. I'm at 32 food over 30, so I can't produce any units. I did get to tier 3, which is an important point, because you really want to get fortified burrows, just for sort of dealing with this burrow harass. If you don't go for tier 3 in the fortified burrows, you can very easily get into trouble if they show up sort of at sort of inconvenient timings, because without the fortified upgrade, these Druids of the Talon are just going to torch your burrows. It's a 2 food unit, really cheap in terms of resource cost and build time, and of course the range. They do a ton of damage to burrows. If he actually gets level 2 on his Stormhawk, you know, he's going to have another source of magic damage. So if he can continually destroy your burrows, that's really going to make it hard for you to catch up. And typically, the elf players with this strategy will get a Tinker Third. For some reason, this guy actually goes for an Alchemist, which is probably just a bad decision. I'm not sure exactly what went into that. I guess the Pocket Factory does take extra from grunt attacks, but other than that, you generally like to have that. The Tinker stats are pretty good. He's a pretty sort of tanky hero. Oddly enough, he's got good armor, and he ends up having pretty decent movement speed as well. And the Pocket Factory, of course, is just going to be another summon, and it's not a summon that's very easily sort of with the Beastmaster summons. I'm actually going to end up adding a Spirit Lodge for Adept Shaman, And the reasoning for that is both Purge is very useful against those Beastmaster summons and Lightning Shield. But if you got a Tinker, the Tinker isn't summons aren't really vulnerable to Purge. I guess they're arguably vulnerable to Disenchant, but again, they come out, sort of, one at a time, and he makes quite a lot of them. So, it potentially is very sort of annoying to deal with. And then in terms of creeping, very easy to creep with a Tinker. So I picked up a Lightning Orb. This allows me a couple of things. It allows me to creep this dragon without really having too much anti-air, just these two heroes. The other thing is it gives me another source of Purge against the summons, and again, being able to attack Druids of Talon that are in the air, potentially Chimera, and also the Stormhawks is going to be a very powerful thing. Now my base is much more sort of secure from his attacks. With the fortified burrows, the magic damage isn't going to be a problem at all, and his heroes really aren't going to be really a problem either. In terms of getting into range of these burrows, I've got this one tower here, and they're sort of blocked off here, so I should be pretty good. Now I come into his base. His base is pretty vulnerable. Again, the elf it generally isn't going to have towers. He's got this Ancient of Wonders sort of right out in the open. 2 armor. He doesn't have the Nature's Blessing upgrade, so it's going to be easy for me to kill that. And now I'm going to go for the Moonwells. Now I'm not really committing to attack here and attack because I only have 3 grunts, and I know I probably couldn't just win a heads-up fight, but I do want to try to get some damage in on his economy, and I'm going to kill several wisps here, which is something I did earlier to sort of slow down his lumber income. Now, it's probably not, I mean, he's got over 1,000 lumber, so it's really not going to be that problematic for him, but I try to run. I end up running sort of arguably the wrong direction here. He TP's right on top of him. I don't think he actually does kill these grunts, because I do expend mana to do a heal wave and to do hex. Now I'm going to send my Blade Master over to see if this dragon has been crept. It actually has already been crept, giving him some decent items. I got the Sobi Mask. I think it was from this camp, so that's going to be a great item on the Shadow Hunter, of course. And yeah, so right now he's got sort of the better army in terms of on open ground fighting. 3-2 heroes. I've got 4 and 2, so I've got the hero, a pretty substantial hero level advantage on my first hero, and the second heroes are pretty close, so that's about even. But the first heroes, I've got like a full level advantage on him, so that's pretty good. In terms of items, I think I've picked up more items from creep camps. Now he's going to get started on his expansion much sooner than I do, so that could potentially be an issue. But it is going to leave him sort of light on the units if you sort of take that 340 gold and add, 2 and maybe nearly 3 sort of Druids of Talon. That's another 6 food to your army. So I've added in 1 Wind Rider with at some point I get the poison upgrade. I'm not sure if I've got it right now in Venom Spears, because that's pretty useful against the dots and everything. Lightning Shield is good against clumped up Druids of Talon, and again, like I say, Purge, incredibly strong against the Beastmaster summons. And I do have this 1 Raider for siege damage, actually pretty useful against dots, and Ensnare, of course, can be incredibly useful. Now this is sort of a micro-intensive army. It has a lot of support units and a really interesting mix of units. So positioning is going to be pretty important. I creep this camp down. He's at my main base. I probably could have saved this burrow if I would have been really paying close attention, but it ends up going down. But the rest of the burrows should be fairly safe. And I'm going to start producing Headhunters and then getting the Berserker upgrade, because they do piercing damage and they're not going to take extra from the magic damage of the dots. So I'm going to sort of run around these towers. I try to cast Lightning Shield. I'm really sort of not doing the best job of micro, but the fact that we're fighting at my base and I do have, the shop here, I do have the tower, the burrows, it is actually pretty good for me, even though my micro could have been way better. Again, I need to make sure I don't lose these Wind Riders. They're sort of the costly unit, more costly units in my army, but he loses several units And he's got to be very careful here because, like I say, the Blade Master, I've got Claws of Attack +6, Gloves of Haste, the Lightning Orb, so +11 attack, level 4, so level 2 critical strike. So he's got a TP out here, and he took a lot of losses there. I'm at 38 food. He's still at 36 food, and he does have an expansion that's just now getting up. So he's not in a terrible position, but he had the town portal. I already had the level advantage. Let's see if he actually caught me there in terms of the levels. No, he's still 3. So I've got 3.5. He's pretty close on his second hero, but he's still very far behind in his third hero, or his first hero, excuse me. Pretty much a full level behind. And again, he had this Alchemist, which didn't exactly add a whole bunch to the battle, I don't think. He's a little bit of an underrated hero. Acid Bomb is pretty strong. Chemical Rage strong. His base damage, especially when you account for Acid Bomb and Chemical Rage, it really gets sort of out of control. But the one problem is he starts with only one base armor. Now he's got Devotion Aura for a second 2 armor, but again, 2 armor is pretty low. You compare that to like 7 base armor for the Blade Master, and then 5 for the Shadow Hunter. You know, it's not really comparable. Now he sort of has a lot of hit points to, and he's a strength hero to make up for that. But he can be a little bit vulnerable, especially at level 1 against a level 4, nearly 5 Blade Master. And here's another key point of this game. He's going to be running around sitting by a fountain, and I'm going to go ahead and finish off this other red camp. So as it stands, I've got both of the red camps at these gold mines. I've got, you know, I did get one of the fountains. I got probably like half of the experience and stuff from the other fountain. I think I got, I'm pretty sure I got both natural expansion gold mines. So the only camps that I don't think I got were the merchant camps in the middle. But otherwise, I did a pretty good job out creeping him, which I think sort of helped boost me to get this win. And again, I got some good items. I pick up a Claws of Attack +12, so that's going to be just insanity on the Blade Master, +23 on the attack. And he tries to run in here. I hex the Demon Hunter immediately and go for the Druids of the Talon. Again, my micro could have probably been a lot better here, but I do pretty good. He's focusing the Blade Master, which, you know, it worked out. He made me Town Portal, but he doesn't kill it. In the meantime, he lost like all of his Druids of Talon nearly. So I'd say I came out ahead there. He's still at 3 on his Demon Hunter, so he's a full 2 levels behind me on the first hero. My Shadow Hunter, of course, is 4. He's only got 3 on the Beastmaster. And again, some of that is going to come to the Alchemist actually siphoning some of the experience. He's not level 2, but he's, you know, a good ways to level 2, so, you know, that might have gotten his Demon Hunter close to 4. But regardless, he's not in a great position. Even with this Fairy Fire, I'm not really too scared to engage his army. If you look at his army, he's actually trying to transition to Chimera, which seems like an interesting thing to do if I was going for a more standard Grunt Raider Spirit Walker combination. But as he has seen, I'm getting sort of a mix of Headhunters and Wind Riders. The Chimera are not really the best choice because I do have counter units. I do already have an orb of lightning. So in terms of the units that are really vulnerable, I still have some grunts, of course, and some raiders, and again, Headhunters and Shaman. You know, they're going to be somewhat vulnerable to the Chimera's splash damage and everything, but you know, it's going to be okay in terms of like defending bases. In open ground battles, most likely the Chimera are not going to be the optimal unit in terms of efficiency because of the armored damage types and stuff like that. So, and again, the fact that this Blade Master is so item stacked and leveled up, that, you know, that's another sort of issue that he has to worry about. So he's sort of lost control of this game a little bit. You know, if the Orc player, if both players get an expansion, generally it's again, and when you're out leveled this much, generally the Elf player is at a disadvantage because of, you know, the fortified towers that the Orc can get are really strong counters to the Druids of the Talon. So they don't offer really, and again, the magic damage type of the Druids of Talon, that's really sort of the reasoning there. Whereas the Orc is probably running around with some melee damage or some siege damage from Raiders and Grunts. I could potentially switch to Bat Riders, get a couple of Bat Riders, get Liquid Fire to prevent repair, and the fact that the Blade Master, himself is just going to be a lot of damage output, even on buildings. He's going to come in here. I'm a little bit out of position. I take a full mana burn there. I'm not exactly sure what I was distracted with, but at any rate, didn't start out great. But again, I've got the lightning shield going down. He's trying to micro it. He actually does a really good job of positioning that Druid of the Talon there with the lightning shield. But like I said, the units, I've got a bunch of piercing damage units, and he can't get really attack upgrades on his Druids of the Talon in the same way that I can get, armor and attack upgrades on my units. As a caster unit, at least in caster form, the Druids of the Talon are going to be, sort of outpaced in terms of their ceiling if you do get upgrades. But again, I've got piercing damage, siege damage, and sort of only a few grunts. I guess Wind Riders actually are going to be very vulnerable as well to the dots, but I do a pretty good job of saving them. I think I had 3 at the start of that battle, and I lost 1, but I saved the other ones, I believe. And so here's a moment where if he, like I said, he gets out of position. I've only got 1 Raider actually, but I can still really very easily threaten his expansion. I need to move this Raider out of the line of attack here by the tree. It's really just hammering it, but again, say the situation was reversed and he made me town portal out of there. Of course, you can say, well, I spent resources to get towers near my expansion. Sure, but realistically, I don't know what kind of options the elf would be looking at. Maybe bears. I guess if he has Chimera like he does, you can get the siege upgrade for that, but which is one thing. But again, I still think it's easier for the Orc to sort of both have a versatile army and also be able to threaten bases. Now again, he's transitioning to Chimera, which they're great against ground units, and arguably with the upgrade they're going to be pretty good against buildings. But as you can see, against my sort of mixed army, they are terrible. They're getting destroyed. Even if I just had like my Blade Master and my Shadow Hunter and like maybe 1 or 2 more units, a Raider here and a Wind Rider, the Chimera can't do anything. They can't do anything against the Wind Riders at all. So we needed to have some either Hippogriff Riders or dots around, and he just didn't. So that's sort of the issue with the transitioning to Chimera. It does offer the ability to pressure buildings to a certain degree, but it loses the versatility or the effectiveness in battle against certain sorts of armies, like the one I'm fielding here. So this was a pretty good decision for me to go more a mix of piercing units like the Wind Riders and the Berserkers, rather than trying to just hammer in with Grunts and Raiders and maybe Spirit Walkers, which a lot of times is going to be what a lot of Orc players do. And again, both choices have their ups and downs. Which one is strictly better? I don't know. I definitely am glad I had Wind Riders in this scenario instead of Raiders. So that's sort of the one thing I can say for sure. But yeah, so this is sort of a little bit of a weird decision to go for a Lightning Shield against the Druids of the Talon. But again, I do think it is fairly effective. And again, Purge also sort of offers another really useful tool against the spellcasters. Alright, not the spellcasters, the summoned units. So, and again, I guess you can purge Fairy Fire as well. So, but not really the most efficient counter to Fairy Fire. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this one. Oh, and also, alternatively, Purge can be used in ways similar to Ensnare. Slowing down units retreating, running away, and whatnot. So, that's another sort of potential tool in your bag to you know, if something's getting away, a demon hunter for example, and you don't have ensnare, but you do have a shaman, then you can go ahead and cast purge. If we look at the units killed, by far I was ahead in terms of units produced. A lot of his were summons, so you know that's sort of a thing. And again, 2 food units versus, you know, 3 food grunts, 4 food wind riders. You know, of course you would think he should be ahead on that point, and he was quite far ahead. But in terms of the army sizes, at the highest point, pretty comparable. 63 for him, 61 for 63 for me, 61 for him. And so this is where the big difference was. I gained about twice as much experience as him, and again, that's by the end of the game. It wasn't like I was twice as it wasn't like I had twice as much experience during the whole game than he did. It's just at the end it sort of ballooned up there. But I did have a substantial sort of from the mid game on. I did sort of get a hero level advantage, and ended up getting a bunch of hero kills. He didn't get any, which is pretty useful. At least one of his hero kills was sort of just lucky on my end. He just had a micro mistake in his base. He could have healed his demon hunter and he just didn't. So, but resource wise, I assume he harvested more gold than me. He got his expansion first. By quite a bit, and I actually ended up losing a little bit more to upkeep. Not really, 60 gold, kind of inconsequential, arguably, but yeah, he was about 900 or so gold ahead of me in terms of gold mined. So, that's pretty substantial. But again, transitioning to Chimera, a little bit of a risk, as you sort of saw the versatility of that army is a little bit limited. It sort of has high risk, high reward. If the opponent, makes the correct counter units, you're probably going to struggle to do any real damage. Now, if you can get like upgraded hippogriffs and Chimera, that's going to be a pretty strong, arguably, or depending on the scenario, pretty hard to counter. Now, if I've got an expansion and 2 bestiaries, and of course, the berserker upgrade and stuff, I can probably still field a pretty good counter army, even if you surprise me with it, depending on the timing. But if you get surprised with like 4 or 5 Chimera, and the elf is on the attack rather than on the defense with those Chimera, that's a little bit different. He can start popping off buildings, maybe destroy a bestiary, maybe knock out some burrows, and that totally changes things. And you won't be able to transition into a counter, really a counter army, and then your expansion is not going to be as powerful. Having an expansion is great when you can produce units, obviously, but having an expansion but no supply, a supply deficit, it really makes that expansion way less sort of threatening to the other player, way less useful, because like I said, all you can do then is get upgrades and items. So, depending on where you fight, what kind of units that you already have, you might get caught with just the wrong units, and then, not have enough anti-air, and then, start falling further and further behind. And that's sort of how this elf strategy generally can steamroll some orc players. Like if I didn't even do that great mid game in terms of saving my burrows, but I could have done a little bit worse, sure. But if I'd had another round of losing burrows like that without sort of adequate compensation, like killing some of his archers, killing his hero, whatnot, then I probably just start falling too far behind in the unit count, and then I can't do anything. I can't really fight him on open ground. So if I'm not fighting him near my burrows and my tower, then I'm probably losing the battle, so I have to avoid those. Then he can expand like he did. Then he can transition to whatever, and I just can't. I can't respond to all those threats. If he's got an expansion advantage, and I can't match it, eventually that most likely will just win him the game. Even if he makes, even if he's not sort of perfect on the micro, even if his decisions in terms of timing and everything aren't great in terms of unit choice. As long as they're not totally awful, and as long as my heroes don't somehow just become way too strong, you know, he's just going to end up fielding bigger and bigger armies than me, and it's sort of hard for, I mean, it's hard for any race to, you know, overcome certain disadvantages like that. But Orc specifically, you know, if I'm an undead player and I've got a 50 food army with like a Death Knight and a Lich that are, you know, Orb of Corruption, pretty decent levels on those heroes, I can hit and run and sort of, you know, do some things. You know, maybe try to focus down heroes, stuff like that. They give me a chance to stay in the game and keep them from getting just out of hand in terms of their army size. Whereas Orc maybe isn't quite as well positioned to do it. You still do have the Blade Master and the Shadow Hunter, you know, ensnare sort of combination that can do that. You can try some sort of mass raider cheese strategy, or like Bat Riders. You know, and again, one of the strategies I've seen with the Lightning Shield is to go for Bat Riders and Shaman, Adept Shaman, because, you know, the Bat Riders can concoct on Druids of the Talent. If they go Crow form, they do siege damage. They can threaten, you know, expansions, buildings. They can fly over trees, and so they're very similar to the Wind Riders in their advantages, but they offer the added advantage of having potentially liquid fire and siege damage as opposed to piercing damage. And they cost only 2 food, much less gold. So, and probably a little bit better against like mass crow form dots than would be the Wind Riders, because you can just concoct the Bat Riders, and so they're going to be losing units, and you probably aren't going to be losing units. So, you know, in terms of some of those scenarios, you know, that would be good. Now, in terms of against Chimera, yeah, probably just against Mass Chimera, I'd probably just rather have Wind Riders, because, you know, they offer a higher damage potential, whereas the Bat Riders are limited to concoct damage, so unstable concoction. So, but at any rate, those are sort of the key points there, sort of alternative strategies that you can go with. Sometimes the Orc player will go for a Tauren Chieftain second in order to have Shockwave and Endurance Aura. I think is generally Shockwave over Stomp, so you can hopefully sort of deal with those masses of Druids of the Talon. I don't think this guy took advantage of healing scrolls too much, which maybe was a big problem that he could have improved upon. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty fun game. It started out pretty close, a little bit of back and forth. I felt like I was, you know, in terms of that first burrow push, I didn't do very well. But looking back, since he did lose a Demon Hunter and he did lose some archers, it wasn't quite as bad as I expected during the game. And then just the fact that I out-crept him so much and got some pretty good items from some of the camps. Claws plus 12, pretty much the best item you can hope for as an Orc here with the Blade Master. So, and claws of other claws and gloves and the Sobi mask and everything. So, and Unholy Aura, of course, is great as well. So, anyway, that's going to be the end of this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Seeing a little bit of an interesting wrinkle with the Shaman and everything. And you got a little bit of insight into the timings. I didn't do great in terms of being prepared for his timing push. But, again, I am aware of how it goes. And I sort of did react pretty well. The Shadow Hunter coming out, you know, I was able to sort of fight with him, and then having the grunts, you know, come in from behind to deal with the archers, while I tried to harass his wisps with the Blade Master. Rather whether or not it would have been better just to have the Blade Master in my main base, since I did end up killing his Demon Hunter after he staffed, probably not actually. Probably just better to have him in the Elf base. But again, that was a little bit of a lucky catch on my end. He was right by a Moonwell, so that really shouldn't have happened. So anyway, though, this is ScryMind signing out.